What's up, MetaNerdz? This video is all about the BTS-A2 Long-Range Strike Fighter / Bomber, also known as the H-Wing. It was produced by Corsair Manufacturing, the same people who gave us the Y-Bomber and the K-Wing Assault Starfighter. At a length of 17.1 meters, or 56 feet, it was a Jawa longer than the Y-Wing, and at 9 meters wide, or 29.5 feet, it was nearly 2 Rancors across. While at a height of 2.9 meters, or 10 feet, it was about as tall as an AT-PT. With its Class 1 hyperdrive, it was tied with the A-Wing and the X-Wing, while being faster than the ARC-170. There are no speed stats, but its armament included 1 medium laser cannon turret, 2 light ion cannons, and 2 proton torpedo launchers, for a total payload of 12 torpedoes. It could carry 4 people, a pilot, 2 gunners, and even a passenger. The position of the armament was essentially switched with the Y-Wing, going from 360-degree coverage of the ion cannons via the dorsal-mounted turret, to a laser cannon turret in the H-Wing, and having forward-facing ion cannons, instead of the fixed laser cannons of the Y-Wing. I believe this represents a difference in tactics, where the Y-Wing was optimized to deliver all of its firepower forward, and disable any ships that were tailing it, so that their starfighter escort could clean them up, but the H-Wing wanted to disable any target that it was pursuing, deliver its proton torpedo payload, while also being able to destroy any ships tailing it. It had added protection due to its additional plate armor in the hull, and upgraded to a heavy deflector shield, which all point to the H-Wing being used like a bomber version of the ARC-170, where you traded speed and maneuverability for the ability to confidently engage multiple starfighters on the way to delivering your payload. This was made even better from the increase from 8 to 12 torpedoes on board, and though the ion cannons were forward mounted, Corsair worked in a very useful upgrade that allowed them to pivot 40 degrees, not as great as a ball turret, but it gave the gunner more range than your standard forward fixed cannons. All of these advances came from complaints they got from Rebel pilots, who stated that in a single-seat bomber, like the B-Wing and most Y-Wings, they had more features than they could control in a dogfight, between the ion cannons, laser cannons, torpedoes, angling the shields, all while trying to fly evasively. So the H-Wing went up to 3 crew members, while having weapon systems that had overlapping access. Pilot controls were only at the forward station, but shield, ion cannons, and proton torpedoes could be controlled by anyone, useful if one was occupied with a certain system, killed or knocked unconscious, or even in times of emergency, when these had to be scrambled without a full crew. The only flaw here was that the mounted laser cannon turret could only be operated via the separate gunner seat in the turret. But despite that issue, another plus was that it had a large amount of fuel, so that it could take longer trips through hyperspace with that Class 1, and had bunks in this aft section that were described as being not as cramped as you would think. All these upgrades combined with a state-of-the-art life support system, and all of these additions, is why the cost of this ship gets up to 225,000 credits, almost twice the cost of its predecessor, and nearly 4 times the cost of a TIE fighter. As for its history, Corsair hoped that this ship could replace the Y-Wing and B-Wing, but it cost so much more, took up more space in the hangar bay, and required the training of 3 times the personnel, and kinda broke the old adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Because though Rebel pilots had their complaints about their bombers, the Y-Wing and B-Wing could definitely get the job done. For these reasons, this amazing ship never really saw a ton of action against the Empire, and was used more as additional firepower in bombing runs, quick jumps in and out of hyperspace for hit and runs, and as escorts for some convoys, as it could take on a great number of TIE fighters alone. On at least one occasion, the H-Wing was able to take out 4 TIE fighters after a Rebel outpost had been discovered, buying time for the Rebels to evacuate and make the escape through hyperspace. What happened to this ship after the fall of the Empire, and into the New Republic era, is unknown. So that's it for its history, and the only behind-the-scenes fact is that it first appeared in the role-playing magazine Challenge 35 from the year 1988, and was more fleshed out in the guide Stay on Target. So that's it for the H-Wing, but most important of all, remember, don't try to sell resource-intensive ships to a struggling rebellion, and the Force will be with you, always.